Okay, hi. Host Eric here, talking with fans people. I'm responding to that one. And that one, you have got my adrenaline pumping, which is always a good sign. It indicates that you're bringing the heat. You're not fooling around. However, I'm going to dismantle the debate here. And here's what I'm going to do for you. First of all, I'm going to point out some reasons why we're going to dismantle this debate. It has become parsed down so far that we're not arguing about anything anymore. We're simply arguing about who was right and who was wrong in the initial assessment of things. I've got a couple of responses to specific things you say. First of all, you say, I will refer you to the latter half of my original comment that you apparently have not read. I did read it. The guy on the left is claiming, I read that exactly. However, this is absolutely, objectively, and unequivocally true. The website, for example, offers this very service. Okay, a couple points here. One, I conceded that I was wrong about that in the video, in the sense that I conceded that, in fact, you can make that identification, and that it can be fairly accurate. But what's it correlating with is my point, and you're not addressing that. It's correlating with what? Self-identification? The reason it's not real is because you can't falsify a claim about race. If I say I am Chinese, you can't prove me wrong in any meaningful sense because race itself doesn't have any clear, bright line. You've not addressed that. However, the point is we are at this point arguing about simple parsing things. You explicitly claim that you cannot determine someone's European, Chinese, African, etc. from a DNA sample. No, I didn't. I said you can't determine if somebody is white, Asian, or black. Those are different things than ancestral origin. Continuing to conflate them over and over again in your comments does not change the fact that you're conflating them. Let's go to the other comment here, the one I was aiming to respond to in the first place. It's probably in here. So, okay, so first of all, it's important that you not engage in equivocation either. Okay, so that's the next thing I want to address here, because this equivocation fallacy isn't going to fly with me. You can't use this kind of sophist bullshit and expect it to fly with me. It's not going to. That's just all there is to it. I'm going to catch it all, and I'm going to call you out on it all. So you got to be careful. When we look at this here, here we go. All right, so ask how many races are there. You say, how many dog breeds are there? If there's one set figure that everyone agrees on and there isn't, does that mean the dog breed doesn't exist? Well, no, obviously not. I'm not saying ancestries don't exist. I'm saying that races don't correlate with them precisely in any meaningful sense. And when we're talking about race, we're talking about something different than ancestry. If you're saying you're subject of racism and you look just like me, but your DNA shows that you are more closely related to an African, does that make me black? No, because that racial identity is something that I've constructed and put on myself. So we're talking about different words here and is part of the problem. But another part of the problem is stuff like this. I was unaware I needed to define race for you, but I'll do so because I'm a nice guy. If you were unaware you needed to define race, then why are you making claims about it? If you didn't have a definition of it, if you are going to make such strong claims about race, why would you be unaware that you need to define it? My whole point is that it's not meaningfully defined, and so the claims about race are fundamentally wrong. We can make claims about a genetic connection between ancestry and a person's phenotypic appearance if we want to. We can choose to draw correlations between an individual's ancestry and lots of different things if we want to. But you are neglecting to factor in that the person making claims about race has some sort of intention. What is the purpose of these claims? If you're not asking that question, you're not addressing it in a real sense. You're addressing it in some sort of technicality sense where you're going, look, I can technically win this point because I can show that there's a correlation between ancestry and this. You're refusing to address at all the fact that these things have fundamentally different meanings. They do. So let's see what your definition is here. A group of genetically similar human beings with these similarities derived from shared environmental, voluntary, selective factors. As your previous comment indicates, you don't disagree with that. So at this point, it's safe to say that race, as defined herein, is real. Well, yeah, if you define race as the thing that's as ancestry and don't address the fact that there are no clear distinctions of it, and don't address the fact that claims about race are not the same thing as claims about ancestry, and don't address the fact that nobody uses the words that way, and don't address the fact that you've rendered the argument circular, then yeah. Which individual? This is the most fun part of all. This part I love. I love this. I bet you usually get away with this shit. So I want to talk to you. I want you for sure to talk to you. Which individual shows what's his ancestry? Show his genotype. This is a ridiculous line of reasoning. No one ceases to be one race and then to be another. That would imply that people can change races. It's an equivocation fallacy. I didn't use the word ceases like that. When you equivocate and change the meaning of the word, yeah, you're going to be able to create contradictions. Because you're equivocating. Come on. Race, as stated previously, refers to groups of genetically similar human beings. Height is only one trait, albeit a polygenic one. When we talk about the genetic similarities within a race, we're talking about similarities stretching across vast strands of DNA encompassing hundreds of millions of base pairs. Look at it this way. Okay, now notice that he's providing an answer to the question, why should we prioritize this vector over something like height and grouping people? My point is that, first of all, race is not something that we get to assign to people. They choose it, right? They self-identify with a race or not. There are plenty of people in the world who might identify with a race that you don't agree is their race. Are they wrong? Are you right? Should we prioritize the biological evidence over their self-identity or not? Personally, I think it's a stupid thing to even consider at all. And that's my point, is what possible good could you be up to if you're talking about how important it is to be able to biologically distinguish between different people according to race? Is there any reason to believe that human beings are unequal because of this? In any way that matters? Categorization based upon the latter will yield more genetically similar individuals than the former. And what is the point of categorization if not to marginalize the degree of similarity between objects and individuals within the same group? Okay, all that point is necessary, is fine. I don't disagree with any of that. And none of it requires race. None of it requires race as an identity marker. We're talking about ancestry. So if you define ancestry as exactly the same thing as race, then you're saying race isn't separate from ancestry at all. Race is exactly the same thing as ancestry. So when I say, talking about racial politics, I'm talking about ancestral politics. Except we're not, are we? We're not. There's a big difference why I don't incite passion when I talk about German ancestry coming into conflict with the modern world. So if I go like, the other day I wanted to put on my lederhosen, but people looked at me funny. You know, the world's not going to go, you're a victim. You need to be treated differently in some way. But if I make claims about race as opposed to cultural heritage, then people behave differently. So obviously ancestry and race are different things. Avoiding that reality and trying to definitionally win this thing without addressing that is, if you're winning anything, you're winning a little teeny battle that has no impact. Right? You're winning a tautology. But you're losing reality because race and ancestry are not the same thing. Everything you said here fails utterly. I will concede this one point. When I said, to the extent that I said, there is no way to biologically align a person's self-identified race with their ancestry and with their DNA, I was wrong. Assuming that they self-identify in a typical fashion, then yeah, it is possible to predict somebody's self-identification of race. But understand that's what it is. It's a prediction of one's self-identification of race, because race and ancestry are different things.